Black Panther is a failed design. There's been a lot of discussion around Black Panther and Marvel Rivals and what to do with the character. Is he broken? Is it a support problem? Is he bad? Or are you bad? Like, what's the deal here, right? I'm here to say I've never seen a character more needing of a rework in a game in a very, very long time. So let's start with this. I think the support players are right when they talk about Black Panther. That character, you can't react to it on most of the heroes in the game. And he's got way too volatile of a design to where he's feast or famine. And when he's feasting, it actually is enough to make people want to not play the game at all, because supports and squishies, you can't really react to this guy unless you're on very, very specific characters. And I think there's a lot of room for Black Panther to actually find a niche in the game that could really help the game and make him way more consistent and less oppressive to play verse. I've got something awesome for you guys today. If you want to learn how to do some back-end web development, whether it be in Python or SQL or a TypeScript, you name it, right? Boot.dev has you covered because they figured out how to gamify learning in a fun and interactive way. Not only are all of their entry-level courses and a lot of the stuff they have free in guest mode, but you unlock a ton of additional stuff when you actually go for the paid subscription. Their method of learning in terms of gamifying and adding progression to learning has really allowed a lot of people to step into, web development and into that learning process in a fun, interactive, gamer way. For me, I always struggled in school. I actually did my best with gamified learning, whether it be type racers or something like that. Boot.dev does that for web development. So if you're looking to learn in a non-traditional way, if like the classroom or different stuff like that was not beneficial to you like me as a kid, this would be a great opportunity to find the right way to learn on your own terms. So big shout out to Boot.dev. I've got 20% off if you use my code down in the description. So please support the channel, support yourselves, and support Boot.dev, who have figured out this amazing way to gamify learning. So let's start out with this. Let's talk about Black Panther and maybe where we could take him, but what got us here. His one-shot burst damage combo is way too good, and as they fix the no regs and players got much better at the character, there is really not much margin for error to actually play against him when he's hitting his cooldowns on you. And frankly, the game's netcode isn't good enough to actually support him being able to play the game in the way that he does. They really do need to change this guy. And anybody who tries to sit here and say, well, no, Black Panther's fine, he's really bad, if you play triple support, he can't do anything, you're actually affirming my point in that he should get worked into a character that can be played more consistently, that actually is more effective into what is strong into the game. In my opinion, I think that is healing. I think it'd be really cool. So let's move past Panther. Is he oppressive? Is he not? I think he is. He's much better than a character like DPS Doomfist, where DPS Doomfist was much louder, way more telegraphed. You had to have a wall behind you to get one shot. You could stun him with way more characters in the game. You could actually walk forward closer to the punch so that you would not impact into the wall. There were a lot of different things that you could do to answer DPS Doomfist, and he was way more telegraphed in a straight line, not back and forth constantly. And even DPS Doomfist had to get reworked. Most importantly, DPS Doomfist could not cleave. Black Panther can cleave through numerous targets at once. And I'm not saying this isn't a skillful thing. It doesn't take skill to do that. But there's a big difference between those two characters. And I think DPS Doomfist was more fair than Black Panther was. And even DPS Doomfist got reworked as well. So let's move past it. What could you do with Black Panther to actually make him an interesting kit? Here's what I'd like to see with Panther. One, I think they need to give him some kind of mid-range or mid to short mid-range vibranium-based primary fire with his claws. Something that maybe like a magic right click or something like that can vibranium mark targets, okay? You can let him keep his dash, but you could lower the damage. Let him still be fast. Let him keep moving around so he's fun and the dashes are good to go. But instead of being super heavily damage-oriented with the vibranium marks, they could be something based around heal mitigation. The game really does, especially in open queue, need actual viable heal mitigation characters that aren't just Blade or something like that. I think that's a niche that Panther could fit into really well, where targets that you dash through get marked with a wound as well as a heal mitigation over time, meaning that Panther into those big clump up comps that kind of fits his playstyle with his dash could actually be a very, very good option into triple support to mitigate healing, draw resources. That's kind of what he does right now, but if you don't get the one-shot kill, you're effectively out of the fight for like 8 seconds. It's not fun for the support players, but this would let Panther play into the style that he's designed, the super fast pace, can be very, very lethal, in and out dash through style. Let them make his cooldowns much more competitive. Let his uptime be way better. Give him a real primary fire that could give options when you're actually splitting through targets, cleaving through them, reducing healing. He just needs a primary that actually matters. You have a character in a game where his primary fire literally does not matter and it's completely useless. Giving him some kind of like vibranium claw that he could shoot would be sick, and an alternative way to mark targets would actually allow him to get played into way more things, including flyers, including things like Ultron. Maybe you actually have a chance to tag him with a vibranium mark with your primary fire, setting up your dash way more consistently and mitigating the amount of healing they have. I think that would help the game. Like, he's almost like a pseudo Wolverine, but instead of actually being damage oriented into like the GOATS comp, the super tanky comps, he's just cleaving through and mitigating their healing a ton, being that type of answer into those big clump up comps. Because in an open queue format, especially with triple support being as good as it is, there needs to be more options into that, and outright damage isn't going to be the answer because the healing is so strong that you actually might be better off with heal mitigation characters instead of just, hey, raw damage. If I don't get this one shot, I'm out of the fight. It would make Panther way more consistent. Then on top of that, I guess you could leave the damage form in his ult, and you can keep his passive where he's actually ramping his damage based on the HP that he loses, really rewarding him for going in for the cleaves, taking damage, and mitigating healing and different stats. But they've got to change his primary fire to actually be something that's somewhat meaningful, that's not just, oh, it's a glorified melee. It's a glorified melee. There's nothing special about it, and there's too much emphasis on his actual spears and dashes and kick. But I'll tell you what, I would love to play Black Panther. Love to play Black Panther if he actually had some kind of uptime in a fight that wasn't just, I hit this one shot or I'm out. I loved playing this character in the beta. I played him literally from beta 1 onwards. He's super rewarding, and it's that dopamine hit of cleaving through dashes that if you actually added some kind of ability to vibranium mark people with the melee, reduce the damage, that dash dopamine can continue to happen, but it loses the lethality, which makes it so frustrating to support players where you get double speared one-shot dash literally in one frame, and you don't have to impact a wall. It can cleave through your team as well. There's not much that you can actually do to that. It gives support players more options to actually play into it, but gives Panther a unique and way more consistent niche in the game that the game sorely needs. It was supposed to be Blade, and he's not good enough to actually heal Mitt to the degree where triple support comps actually have a reasonable check in the game. He's not good enough. The heal Mitt is just not there. Imagine if the vibranium marks wound and do damage over time, but also mitigate incoming healing, and it could be a really solid number, meaning, look, you actually have to respect this Panther. You don't want to get dashed out. Mag bubbles, you will have to come in. Like, there's a lot of different things that you could actually implement to this guy to really shake up his kit and make him be much healthier in the game, and I think he's the best character to do it to because he's the most needing of a rework. The same way that his ult gets cast and he throws that, if you do like a giant Panther swipe, claws that can go flying at enemies that heal Mitt and mark with vibranium, or the more you hit people, just some kind of extended range on that would be so like me. And it doesn't have to be like long, it could be short to medium. It just needs to be literally not a melee. That's all it could be. So Panther's got a really big problem. Black Panther is a big problem in the game, and I think he's got the highest ceiling, and he's the best option to be an overall solution to the sustain issue in Rivals, which shows no sign of being nerfed anytime soon. They've had a year to figure it out. It's been slaps on the wrist at most, and if they don't want to nerf anything, then they should rework Panther into being a cleave, wound damage, heal mitigation monster that would make him more fun to play against, give him a very solid needed thing in the game that's not a one-shot kill, that would make him better to play against, and make him a better overall, more consistent character so that the Black Panther players can play their character more. And he brings a lot to the table in terms of being a threat to wound and heal mitigate kind of forcing those triple support comps, not forcing them off, but giving a very valuable and fun option to actually mitigate those guys. So that's my Black Panther is a problem video discussion. I think there's a lot you can do to change this guy, and I would love to see that type of rework. I think it would make him way more fun to play, way better for the game, and way more consistent, so you Panther players aren't just hearing, we gotta nerf that character, then you don't get to play your main. If this type of thing goes through and it works, you actually would get to play your main more, and he'd be better without being frustrating. And that's the thing that they have to tackle over at NetEase. So I hope they're able to do it. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch y'all next time. Take care. Much love. Peace out.